how can you infuse innovation in the company? Well, some methods, of course, are by training and incubating entrepreneurs. Another one is bringing in startups into the realm of the company and spinning off stuff. So not just having that as a project internally, but really taking it outside and making it its own entity. There are a couple of companies that use corporate incubators to infuse companies with external thinking and fresh culture, some like Samsung or Orange. Others are collaborating with independent accelerators, so outside organizations. For example, Disney and Barclays, they work with Techstars. Techstars is such an accelerator. So how much do you have to think of that? So in order to work with the startups, normally, in an early stage startup, you would think of investments of $20,000 to $100,000. You may offer them office space that you have. You give them access to resources that you have, such as experts that help them with stuff, legal experts that you have in-house. You give them maybe tools and connections. You expose them to media employees or customers. And of course, the benefit for you is that you may be the first to access the technology and services, but you also see those startups and these founders in action. And they can, inspire your own employees that are in interaction with them. Here's an example of such a corporate incubator. That's Flextronics Lab IX in Milpitas. That's just around the corner where I live. Flextronics is an electronic contract manufacturer. So if like Foxconn, Flextronics is the second largest behind Foxconn electronic manufacturers, and they manufacture. If you have Fitbit or Jawbone or some other fitness device, it's very likely that they build it because they are owning 80% of the market that they are building. Not that their name is on that, but they are manufacturing it in contract for larger companies. And what they did is they did this Lab 9 where they are investing into promising Internet of Things startups, hardware startups, electronic startups, and bring them into the space for a period like 6 months or up to a year. Have coaches when they need something about FCC regulations, with wireless standards and so on. They bring in the experts. When they need regulators to talk to regulators, they help them with that. If they need some legal documents, legal aid, they have the lawyers coming in. So that's really a big advantage for them. And then, of course, the tools, machinery, everything that they do in order to quickly produce little batches or tests. And then, of course, because of the production facilities, really roll it out bigly. So how do you set that up? Such a corporate incubator, you need people who are passionate for such a corporate incubator. It's not a person that is going strictly by the rules. It needs to be a person that likes, or there need to be people that like to work with startups, with creative thinking. They need to be trained on these different methods, lean methods, agile startup models, design thinking, etc., so that they are able to teach and help those startups also. You need to mentor those teams, helping them. And that's like these executives and these coaches that are helping entrepreneurs. They need to establish a positive supporting culture across the teams and need to be able also to pull the plug on not successful teams if it's not working out. And of course, exit successful companies. It means, how do we get seed capital for them? How do we spin them off? How do we do more with them? Those incubator spaces can be used for more stuff, not just for hosting those startups, but of course for events where you invite everyone in the company to meet and greet and see the latest demos and the coolest shit that's going on there. You use it for organizing hackathons, ideally internally, externally, people working together 24 hours on having, after 24 hours, some demo available. Bring in as many people from the organization to interact with the teams. So rotate them, maybe bring them in for 2 days from different departments and support them. And equip the space with tools and resources that allow people just to tinker, to get the creative juices flowing, as I wrote it here. Here's an example, Morava. If you're in Austria, You may have heard of that. So that is a company, it's a media distribution company that has around 1,200 employees and an annual revenue of around 300 million. And they created what was called Morava for Future to discuss and observe trends and innovation and invest in startups. So it's still a family-run business. So the junior chef, so to speak, spoke with his father about that after 6 years of being in Silicon Valley. And they decided, because of when you're a media distribution company and you bringing newspapers and books, magazines to the different distribution places like stores, that business is slowly going away. Yeah? With print business is disappearing. So what's the future for them? So they were looking at the different skills and the different capabilities that they have. So he went into the startup scene and really looked around for over a year, spent a lot of time looking at startups, talking to startups, and then deciding on, okay, let's do 50,000 euro here and 50,000 euro there, and even offer them some empty office spaces that we have in our headquarters. And this way interact and offer them, let's say, this transportation delivery service that we have. And on the other hand, we'll learn from them and work with them together. In this way, spark a culture of innovation for us and also help your startup be more successful. If you acquire a startup, this is of course very tricky. Yeah? A lot of questions arise. It's not an easy thing, and you can easily screw it. Just be honest. And in most cases, you will screw that because the people involved are often corporate, and the people they buy, the companies they buy, are startup founders. It's a very different culture. So you have to ask yourself questions. Do you keep them as a separate entity, or do you merge them with the company? So are they still outside? They're just acquired and you own them, but they're still under their own brand and outside and not basically in your own offices. Is this an acqui-hire? Are you interested more in the talent and the people there, or in the technology? If you're not interested in the technology, but in the skills that the people have, that is what we call an acqui-hire. Are you ready to replace your own existing products with the startup product and let them lead? You may face a lot of resistance internally because nobody wants to have them tell that your baby is ugly, yeah, the stuff that they've worked, and then replace it with some young guns that come up with a thing that's not tested and not gone through the process like in your company. Will it look like one side lost? That means that product on your side that you shut down, or that product of the startup side that is shut down, is there somebody losing? Because this is not a good moment. Yeah. How do the corporate cultures differ? What's going on there? Is this a match, or is this really opposite to each other? Because this is the basis for a large conflicts and a very unsuccessful thing. How do business models, technologies, brands, etc. differ? So in order to make successful acquisitions, you have to be aware of them. You have to have empathy. You have to also, you can only learn if you do it. And most of them, or some of them, will fail, but you have to do it, and you should do it. The other way around, not just bringing them in, but also what about entrepreneurs, spinning them out? So here are examples. SRI is it started originally Stanford Research Institute. And Stanford wanted to spin out ideas or the research that they had, discoveries that they made, and make them products. So and they started SRI. Nowadays, SRI International is an independent company, and since the inception, they have spun off 60 plus companies. Some of them include Siri, yes, the artificial intelligence assistant on your iPhone, yeah? Or E-Trade, or Symantec is another spin-off from them. SAP, the large German software maker, also spun out a company called T-Leaf that was looking at web analytics, and this was in 1999. So there are examples of company being spun off. Most recent example that I've heard of was RWE, the utility company in Germany, spun off basically energy just a few days ago while I'm recording this, having basically the old power utilities, the big nuclear things, the coal utilities, power plants, in a separate entity of 20,000 people, and Energy is this new innovation energy technology company with 40,000 of the employees as a separate entity. Of course, that's that's a very big spin-off, so to speak, and probably out of other reasons in addition to what we're thinking here when we look at Siri or T-Leaf. But you see, there are different options of taking a part of the company and trying to give it its own life. So how does SRI International do that? And I asked them this question, and they said, well, for us, it's always, we're looking at the size of the opportunity. It has to be big. So SRI is not interested in small opportunities. That's SRI. Yeah? And what is required is there's a champion in a team that have to be willing to lead the effort. So somebody has to be willing to actually leave the company and make its own thing. And believe me, there are people in companies that I've talked to that would be actually interested in doing that. They may see that, yes, I know I would not be able to probably push that forward in my company this way, but I'm not going on bad terms, so I'm actually interested in the future of the company that I'm working because they treated me well, I have my friends there. But is there an opportunity, to spin off a company and give it its chance, but under their own terms, but still being tied into this larger entity that allows me also to tap back into resources. So SRI has these NABC key aspects that they call needs, approach, benefits, and competition that are here helping them decide on when a company is to be spun off. Co-innovation is another model for innovating. And that is when I do it with some partner. Yeah. So SAP is doing that with the Co-Innovation Lab, the COIL, where SAP works with customers, with clients, with partners, and is co-innovating and creating new products this way. Vodafone is doing that too. They are working with, for example, Caterpillar or BMW, and you may not know, but those cars, those construction equipments, have actually calling home. They have a telephone connection or multiple telephone connections in order to tell them where they are, yeah, so that nobody steals them and they're somewhere else, or what the maintenance status is of them and when they need maintenance. The obstacles with such a thing, of course, is always and where it goes downhill pretty quickly is who owns the IP. That's often the biggest obstacle and often kills the initiative before it even started. So once the lawyers get involved, the thing dies. Yeah. Then you need a commitment of all players and the team members, and the teams need to really spend time together. Yeah, this is very crucial. They need to know each other. They need to meet each other. They need to trust each other. They need to build these relationships. Then connect with accelerators, incubators. Yeah, make a strategic partnership with them. Go there regularly and use it as an event. Put your own employees, a number of employees in the midst of those accelerators. Have them there to learn how those startups are working. This way they're bumping into new startups. This way they figure out, oh, there is a startup that's very interesting. That could be something that we actually need. That could be the future for us. Yeah. This allows them also to access network, to access the deal flow, to access directly for investments. Yeah. To set up entrepreneurship bootcamps, to co-create around tech opportunities that come up. And you don't see them if you're just in your own office building and not outside. Network is super important. I see that. I was in a big corporate. I had my network back then basically only inside the corporation. And while I think I had a pretty large network, once I started looking outside, I benefited way more from that. And nowadays, this is my only network that I have. Of course, I can touch deeply into that, but it gives you so much more input. It gives you so much more understanding of what people are trying to solve and get an overview of multiple industries. You're not becoming an expert in that, but it helps you really to combine ideas, to combine disciplines that spark new technologies. So Here's an example of how Helen Greiner, from one of the co-founders of iRobot, yeah, that's a real company, iRobot, did. They asked people, would you buy a vacuum robot? And the answers were always very negative. Oh, hell no, I would not. Yeah, because that's what they had in mind. A vacuum robot looks like, yeah, a humanoid-looking robot that carries the vacuum. But once they showed them this here, and we all know that the Roomba, yeah, they said, of course, yeah, that's unthreatening. That's really nice, yeah. So people even give it names and dress it. It's a personal thing. So that it's important why to have a network, because this allows you to find these customers, these people that can give you input to that. Another way of getting into ideas is innovation events. I have done it a lot. I worked in a team that organized hackathons in order to create new ideas. We did like 80, 90 hackathons in a 3-year period at SAP. And this can be hackathons, as I said, these are these events where you are doing 24 hours or 48 hours over the weekend things, and people come up with ideas. Or you do innovation salons where on a regular basis, let's say once a month, you invite the company and people present stuff from new ideas that they have to methodologies. You make meetups. Meetups is a very important element in the Silicon Valley culture. It's in the evening. It's not often not organized by companies. It's organized by individuals, and they approach companies to host them. And even often companies are willing to offer catering for that. So and then you have normally a speaker or two, a panel, and you discuss latest trends like drones with laser beams, or robots, or the automotive sector, or newest trends in healthcare and bionics. So and people are coming there and listening, and it's very interesting to see the latest things going on. So that could be something to do that. You may want to attend startup weekends. Startup weekends are often hackathons, a mix of hackathons with startups, with corporations, in the end solving a problem. Yeah, boot camps, something similar. So however you call them, these are things. What they do is they encourage entrepreneurs to meet with like-minded people, to help people who are on the cusp, on the edge, to discover their entrepreneurial passion, and introduce people to internal and external new ideas and trends, and to executives and media and other employees. Yeah, this is often very rewarding for participants, because often you have jury members or executives coming by, and suddenly they see what you can do. Yeah, and they create buzz. So an innovation salon may look like this. Yeah, so you see, this is really like a very small place. It looks like a library that they have here, and they just use that space. Yeah, and that gives it this charm, this character, because people are coming not because of the space or the good food. They're coming to learn ideas. They're hungry for ideas. Yeah, this is a meetup, where you see people mingling. It's not about, again, the food and the drinks. It's about meeting people, networking, talking. What are you doing? Yeah, startup weekend. That's a whole organization doing that. Innovation boot camps that are there. Or here's a hackathon. This is a picture of a hackathon. As you can see, that's really like more tent, white walls. The floor looks ugly. The chairs, but it's packed. It's packed, and those people are sitting over the night there. Now, hackathons follow a certain rule. The formats have to be a certain number of hours, yeah, like 8 hours or 24 to 48 hours. They are often over the weekend. Sometimes they last 4 weeks. Of course, they're not 4 weeks every day over the night, but you have 4 weeks time. But it's an art also to tailor the theme, yeah, not too broad, not too narrow, yeah. At the end, the demo jams, one of the rules is we don't allow any slides. Yeah, you can do only a demo that makes it look like it's a real product already. Yeah, yeah. The perception is that's reality already. Bring pizza, soda, and other food to the event. High carb, so that people use a lot of energy there because they are thinking hard, so they need something to fill up. Forget vegetarian and vegetable stuff. People need really energy here. Take care of fast and stable internet. that there are mentors, that there are materials, that there are resources, that they can do something, that they can sit around, that they have access to experts, that they get help when the internet breaks down or something like that. Yeah, and at the end of a hackathon, you have a demo, a finals basically. Yeah, where the teams present within, this can be 3 to 6 minutes, this can be 2 minutes, this can be, but make it short and crisp so that they focus on the important things. And then there is a jury, and the audience may vote on that as well, and create ground rules for how you judge the demos. Such the demos must be feasible, viable, and desirable. Yeah, and that's a basis to judge. But I have, of course, something to pick on juries. My case goes against idea committees, because everyone thinks they are Steve Jobs on the jury. Well, they're not. They're not as good as Steve Jobs in picking out new ideas. Actually, Steve Jobs is also pretty bad in picking new ideas. Yeah, he said, "I know it when I see it." Yeah, so most of the executives on such a jury are often picked because they have a certain title or position. So you go because you're the SVP of something. Yeah, they often do not have much knowledge on most topics and markets. They may not network enough externally. So they may know a lot in their own field, but they may be functionally and structurally blind. Yeah, and we learned already, it's very difficult to identify good ideas. So in the end, what happens is, because they also have no stake in the idea, there's nothing that they personally invest. They're not venture capitalists that put money in there and need to multiply the money and bring it back to their investors. They have no stake. They're not passionate about that. So in the end, when they judge ideas, they average out the overall evaluation of an idea. Yeah, just whatever bubbles up on top is random, more or less. So I'm basically not a favorite of that, and that brings me to an old Chinese problem: the emperor's nose. Nobody was permitted to see the emperor of China, and the question was, what is the length of the emperor of China's nose? Yeah, so of course you can ask the people and they give you an average, but this is useless because nobody has seen him, and therefore whatever you get is just somewhere else. And that's similar to juries, and this is actually a larger problem. Here is the Marquis de Condorcet from France, who came up with the jury theorem of Condorcet. He said the relative probability of a given group of independent individuals arriving at a correct decision, and that is flawed for innovation. Yeah, because the notion of correctness of an idea is not meaningful when we have policy decisions to deciding questions of fact. Yeah, we're not, with an idea, we're not looking at facts. We're not having questions of fact because we don't know what it will be. Also, the votes may not be independent, and they do not have uniform probabilities. A decision on one thing may influence something else, so it's not completely independent from each other. So, and it does not directly apply to decisions between more than two outcomes. Also, it tends to suppress peripheral knowledge of a few members. That will, because the dominating knowledge that this group has, this group think, yeah, basically pushes peripheral knowledge aside. And in innovation, exactly the peripheral knowledge may be the very important thing to find a good idea. So the conclusion is, don't rely on committees, rather create a structure where entrepreneurs can pursue the idea from stage to stage without the need of gatekeepers or juries.